Okay, hi everyone. So today's topic, right, we're going to talk about holding an annual general meeting, or namely called an AGM. Okay, so all companies are required to hold an AGM, and the directors are actually the ones who are responsible for calling the AGM. In most cases, the directors actually ask the secretary to call for an AGM. As secretary, we can actually remind the director that you have to hold your AGM, and we'll send out reminders, or we'll maybe give the director a tinker. But if let's say the director doesn't call for an AGM, right, there's really nothing else anyone actually can do. Okay, so of course, if the director knowingly missed all the deadlines, right, then the company can actually take action against the director and compel the AGM, but that's a separate matter altogether. Okay, so in general, all companies have to hold the AGM within 6 months from the end of their financial year. Okay, so in this case, right, if let's say your financial year is 1st January to 31st December, which is the calendar year, your book of accounts will actually start from 1st January and end on 31st of December. So the very next day of you actually start a new set of accounts. So what to do with this older set of accounts? You actually have to prepare your financial statements and prepare for the AGM. So the AGM is actually a chance for the directors to show the financial situation and what has been done to the shareholders. Okay, and all companies have to hold the AGM within 6 months from the end of the financial year. So in this case, right, if your financial year ends on 31st of December, then you will actually have to hold your AGM by the 30th of June the very next year. Okay, so you have 6 months to hold your AGM, and for public listed companies, right, this period is 4 months. So if you're publicly listed on the stock exchange, then you actually have 2 months less, which is 4 months to hold your AGM. So after holding the AGM, it will be 1 month to file the annual return, which means that in most cases, the directors actually ask the secretary to, file the annual return, inform ACRA that we've done our AGM and we've complied with the statutory requirements. So some people, what they do is that they say that the regulation states that I have 7 months to file my annual return, which is not wrong, but it's actually oversimplification of the truth. It's actually not 7 months. If you hold your AGM on the very last day, which you are allowed to hold your AGM, then yes, it's 7 months because it'll be 1 month from the date of AGM. But in this example, if let's say the deadline to hold the AGM is on the 30th of June, but you held the AGM on, let's say, 15th of February, then by 14th of March, you will actually have to file your annual return. Anything later than that, right, it'll be late to file your annual return with ACRA. Okay, so it's actually 1 month from the date of the AGM. Okay, so how do you actually go about holding an AGM? Okay, so firstly, right, a notice will be sent out by the directors or secretary to all shareholders to invite them to attend the AGM. Okay, this notice generally, like if let's say you engage a corporate secretary, will be like us. We will actually send out a notice to invite all the shareholders to attend, and attached to this notice, right, will be the agenda of the meeting. So we actually discuss what is to be held in the meeting. Generally, it is to approve maybe directors' remuneration, any dividends, and whether you would like the directors to be reappointed to the board. Okay, if let's say the shareholder cannot attend the meeting, that shareholder can actually appoint a proxy, which means that somebody can, in his or her place, attend the meeting. Okay, and if there's anything to vote in the meeting and the proxy votes, right, it will be taken as though that shareholder is voting. So if let's say that shareholder holds maybe, let's say 25% of the shares of the company, which means that he or she holds 25% of the voting right. If the proxy votes in that manner, right, say yes or no, right, then it will be taken as though the shareholder with that 25% is voting. Okay, so the notice of AGM is usually sent out together with the financial statements, which means that the shareholders, they actually can take a look at the financial statements, and they will be able to analyze before the meeting. Okay, you can't just give the financial statements on the day of the meeting, then the shareholders don't have time to analyze and discuss during the meeting. Okay, so typically, right, this notice has a 14-day period, which means that I'll just type it here. Okay, there's actually a 14-day there's actually a 14-day period, right, for the notice, which means that you cannot hold the notice, you cannot hold the AGM immediately. You actually have to send a notice to the shareholders, and they have 14 days to respond whether they are coming or not. Okay, yeah, this is actually to prevent people from, just saying I want to hold the AGM today. Then after that, the shareholders obviously they can't come today. Okay, then yeah, so if you want to hold the meeting lesser than 14 days, you actually have to have the approval of the shareholders to do so. So you have to go to the shareholders and say that I want to hold the meeting less than 14 days, and the shareholders have to agree to hold the meeting lesser than the stipulated period for the notice. Okay, so the typical agenda for the AGM, right, is like I mentioned previously. So it's actually election or reappointment of directors, compensation packages, or any dividends. And most matters which can be resolved through a general meeting can be done at the AGM. So if you want to maybe remove or add any new directors to the to the company, you can actually do it at the AGM. Okay, because if you take a look at the company constitution, there are a lot of things which have to be done through a meeting. So a meeting is either the annual general meeting or an extraordinary general meeting. So if the AGM is not coming up, you actually have to hold an EGM, which is an extraordinary general meeting. Okay, so shareholders can bring up matters at the AGM, and this is one of the reasons why the agenda and financial statements are sent to them together with the notice. Okay, so the shareholders receive the notice, they know what the meeting is about, what is going to be discussed, they know the financial statements, they actually can go to the meeting and ask the directors, why is this so, why is our financial position as such. So the meeting is actually for the directors to answer to the shareholders. Okay, so in most cases, right, I think for most of you who are watching this, you all will hold meetings through circulation of electronic documents, which means that you can be all over the world and then you can be signing digital documents, which is the route that our company is moving towards. But in some cases, right, there's going to be a physical meeting, which means that the AGM has to be a physical meeting. And if there's a physical meeting, right, then the quorum has to be fulfilled. There's actually a minimum quorum, which means that there must be a minimum number of people at the meeting. Typically, this number is 2, and there's going to be a chairperson and secretary for the meeting. So if let's say the meeting is to be convened, there's a chairperson to the meeting, which means that this chair will actually take lead of the meeting. The secretary is the one taking notes. The secretary doesn't have to be the secretary for the company. It can be like the chairperson can be one of the directors, and then the secretary for that meeting, right, can be another director. So the meeting minutes will be taken. So example, right, a typical meeting minutes will be something like, okay, at 9 a.m., these are the people who are present. So then maybe there are 5 people present, A, B, C, D, E. Then after that, maybe there are 2 people who are absent with apologies. Then FG, person FG will be absent. So in total, there are 5 people who are present, 5 people who are supposed to be there, they are present. Another 2, they are absent. Then, since the quorum is fulfilled, the chairperson will convene the meeting. So the minutes will be like 9 a.m. what was discussed. So if votes are to be considered, then they will actually take a vote. Most of the time it's through raising of hands. Unless they call for ballot, which means that they actually write down whether yes or no in pieces of paper, then they collect it and then they tally it later. So once votes are considered, right, then the results will be taken. Then like, oh, this person voted, then after that, this motion was passed. So it was agreed, it was resolved that this particular person is accepted to the board of directors if one of the topics during the meeting is to agree on whether to appoint a certain person as a director, or maybe you would like to approve directors' remuneration, maybe some directorial fees, or maybe increase the pay of a director. Then they take a vote, and then once they agree, they will say, oh, it was resolved that this was agreed. So something like that. About what time was it discussed? Maybe 9:30, 9:45. We decided to discuss about this. Then at about 9:50, right, then we all agreed and it was resolved. So after the meeting, right, all votes considered, there will be resolutions to the matters discussed. So the typically there'll be a summary of the meeting, which is like a shareholders resolution. So they will list down all the things that were discussed and all the things that were agreed. So okay, in many cases, right, actually in most cases, small companies may choose not to hold a physical AGM. So typically for companies whereby shareholders are also the directors or they have small number of shareholders, what we do is that we actually just circulate the resolutions and related documents. Typically a digital signature system to get all the required signatures is what is necessary. So in like 95% of the cases, right, we actually don't really hold a physical AGM for companies. What we do is that we circulate the resolution, and then what needs to be discussed and the financial statements approved, right, the shareholders will actually sign. So we actually send out a sort of like the summary of what needs to be approved, and then we get all the shareholders to sign, which states that the AGM has been held already. Okay, so a company may dispense holding an AGM if all members pass a resolution to agree to this. So for matters which would have been tabled at the AGM, the company may obtain written resolutions through circulation in methods as agreed by the company and the members. And in most cases, I always tell clients, they always say, can you maybe hold an AGM for me or hold an extraordinary general meeting for me? But I always tell them, I need to take a look at your constitution, because if your company uses the model constitution, then I know how to hold it. But if let's say your company's constitution is rather custom, right, then we actually have to take a look at your constitution to actually determine how we are supposed to hold an AGM or hold an extraordinary general meeting. Which is why if let's say the client is not a client of us, which means that we are not the sitting secretary and we don't hold the company files, we don't have easy access to the company's constitution. Normally, if let's say they come to us and say that we don't want to appoint you guys as our company secretary, but maybe we just want you to administer this meeting for us, then it's a little bit more work, because we actually have to go through the constitution and adhere to the constitution on how meetings are to be held. Then of course, because this a little bit more work, normally we tend to bill a little bit higher. Yeah, but so in general, right, we try as much to only administer meetings for the clients where we are sitting secretaries, because we will have easy access to the constitution. And in most cases, if your company is using the model constitution, then it's easy for us to administer the meeting for you, because it's rather standard across the board. Like most companies are using the model constitution. Okay, so that's all for now. I hope this topic has come in useful and gives you guys a better understanding of how to hold an annual general meeting. And in most cases, right, how to hold an AGM is actually rather similar to how to hold an EGM. It's just that for AGM, there's statutory requirements which require you to adhere to. So there's time frames where you must hold an AGM. And if there's anything which you would like us to cover, you can actually contact me at these contact numbers or my email. You can just join our webinars. Our webinars are actually hosted on this website called companyessentialsworkshop.com. We'll try to hold webinars fortnightly, and preferably be every Thursday. It's still a work in progress, but we are working on it. And if let's say you got any questions, right, you can actually just ask us, and we'll actually try to answer them during the webinar, or we'll come up with a topic to cover your concerns. Okay, so that's all from me, and I'll see you at the next video.